Good morning. Welcome to the International Space Station Flight Control Room, where we have with us a guest today. This is Dorrie Tomayko, who is the lead visiting vehicle officer for the SpaceX 2 mission that's coming up, scheduled to launch on March 1st. The crew was doing some work to get ready for that yesterday, so we asked Dorrie to come in and talk with us a little bit about what was going on with those preparations and what would be happening on March 2nd when the Dragon docks to the space station. Thanks so much for coming, Dorrie.
Glad to be here.
Okay, so let's see. I think yesterday the crew was practicing with robotics. Is that right?
That's correct.
So what did they need to do to get ready?
So we do several different kinds of preparation for the crew and on the ground as well. What the crew was doing yesterday is they did two different kinds. The first one is they were just practicing the capture itself. So we have a simulator called Robot, which is kind of a representation of what they'll use the real day when they're actually controlling the arm, but it's all graphics and simulated. And so they were running that yesterday, and they started at the capture point, which is where Dragon will stop its approach. It's about 10 meters away from ISS, and the crew takes it from there and takes the arm in and goes and captures. So they do a lot of runs like that to practice, both nominal runs, and then we have some runs where maybe Dragon is moving a little bit, or where they have to come in from kind of an offset where Dragon isn't set up quite where it was expected to be. Yesterday was a nominal run, and then we did a 30-meter run, which is a lot farther out, and that involves all three crew members. And so you've got one crew member who is in charge of watching the vehicle, another crew member who's running the arm, and then a third crew member who's kind of there to help overall, especially in case of anomalies or malfunctions. And so that was what they did yesterday. They had a 30-meter in run, and then we simulated a problem on Dragon with its communication system, and that required all three crew members to work together to figure out what the correct operation was.
And I guess, of course, we don't really expect anything to go wrong, but we always at NASA train for that pretty extensively just in case.
Exactly, yeah. Our simulations are always much harder than real life, and that's the way you want it to be. Prepared for everything and then not have to use that preparation.
Well, and I guess now the team on the ground has one run of this under its belt from SpaceX 1, but the crew has not done this in real life.
That's correct. And we actually had a SpaceX demo mission, so we've gotten to see Dragon come up twice now, which is great from a ground perspective. And then the crew, of course, is new every 6 months, and so this crew hasn't seen one yet, but they get a lot of training on the ground, both from the robotics community and from the VVO community, in watching the vehicle approach and then also the capture operations. So they're very familiar with it. This onboard training is really just a refresher. All the hardcore training happens on the ground before they go up.
Okay, and do you feel like they're ready for it?
Definitely, yeah. This crew's well prepared, and they ask really great questions and call us out on things sometimes, so they're definitely on the ball. I think
Okay.
we'll have a really good capture.
Good, good. So, tell us a little bit about why it works like that. Why do we capture it with a robotic arm rather than letting it just come fly all the way up, like say a Soyuz does?
Right, so you kind of have two different kinds of vehicles that come to space station. Like you mentioned, the Soyuz, and that is a docking vehicle, and so it will come up all the way up to station and actually attach itself. It'll line itself up with its port and go ahead and connect. These vehicles, and these include HTV, which is Japan's vehicle, and then also Dragon and Cygnus in the future, which will be Orbital Science's vehicle. These are all grappling vehicles, and they come over to the US side, and they're not built to go ahead and connect directly, so they come up underneath the ISS, and then we grab them with a robotics arm and attach them ourselves.
Okay, and we've had, like you said, a few runs of this one, and then also some experience with other vehicles, and should be good to go on March 2nd.
Definitely looking forward to it.
Can you tell us anything about what Dragon will be bringing up to the station?
I'm not fully sure. I don't work the cargo side of things. I can tell you that we do have some external cargo for the first time,
Oh,
which
okay.
is very exciting from a robotics community perspective because they get to take the arm and have to pull stuff out of the trunk part of Dragon, which we haven't gotten to do yet. We did some preparation in the last mission to get some views and see what it would look like, but that's a first for this mission. So I know there's a lot of work going into that.
Oh, I'm sure. And it'll be up there for a while, so the crew will probably need to practice a little bit for that as well.
Exactly, yeah. They have a little bit of work they do just for cargo transfer, figuring out what we take off, what we put back on Dragon. Dragon is full of science, which is great, and so there's a lot of science work that they'll be doing while it's up there. And then the crew will also do some training before we do Dragon departure again for how they watch Dragon leave. And like you said, a lot of training involving getting the cargo out of the trunk there with the arm.
Sure. And I think we're seeing here some animation of first its journey to the station, and now it's landing back in the ocean. Just showing you how that mission will work a little bit. But again, the crew plays a big part of it, and they're already getting ready and have just about a week more to finish up their preparations. They'll, I'm assuming, do some more off nominal simulations.
That's right. Yeah, we have some more training at the end of this week and early next, all the way up until right the day before capture. We do some last minute training, and like I said, this is all just a refresher for them. And they also have the ability with the robot system that I mentioned to go ahead and do training anytime they want on board, so they can set it up in their free time and do some runs. And so you'll see them doing that a lot, where they just go over and they've got 10 minutes here or there, and they'll go capture some dragons.
Get some extra credit points.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, who's doing what in the actual capture?
So, like I mentioned, we have three crew members. Two crew members who, from our perspective, we call VV1 and VV2, are involved all the way from when Dragon is at 250 meters. The VV1 crew member, and that's Tom Marshburn, is the lead from a VVO perspective. So he's watching the vehicle come up. He's making calls to the ground, which, if you listen during the capture and the approach, you'll hear. We call those block bravos. And he's giving us a feel for what he sees the vehicle doing at any time.
I've got a diagram here of the different points of its approach to the space station.
And then the second crew member, who we call VV2, he's the lead robotics crew member. And so that's Kevin Ford. He's the one who will be actually doing the capturing. So he's going to be manning the arm that day. And then at 30 meters, Chris Hadfield will come in as kind of the overall help for the last 45 minutes or so, and just kind of be the, everybody's getting real involved in what's happening, and he can kind of step back and keep a bigger picture view and be ready in case there were some sort of malfunctions, which of course we don't expect to happen.
Okay, but it sounds like everybody will be busy that day, and it should be exciting to see the second SpaceX, or third, really come to the space station.
Exactly, yeah. It'll be a good day and a nice long day.
All right. Thank you so much for talking with us, Dorrie. We really appreciate it. And again, she is the lead visiting vehicle officer for SpaceX 2, which is scheduled to launch on March 1st.